Hey everybody, it's Chris Francis, and in today's video we are going to do a quick look at some of the key differences between the brand new Canon C500 Mark II and my beloved Canon C200. And we're going to look at some side-by-side example clips to compare the two. That is, if I can get this SanDisk CF Express card reader to actually read their own CF Express cards that come included in the C500 Mark II. Come on SanDisk, please, I just want to see the footage. Alright, let's check it out. Now the first difference you'll notice between the cameras is the size. As you can see, the C500 has a slightly bigger body and it's a little bit heavier. Measuring both cameras with no batteries, no memory cards, or no accessories, the C500 comes in at about 3 pounds 14 ounces, while the C200B is almost 1 pound lighter at 2 pounds 15.6 ounces. Now for comparison, the regular C200 completely stripped down weighs 3 pounds and 4 ounces. So the C500 Mark II only weighs 10 ounces more than this guy right here. On the smart side of the camera, you'll notice that Canon has gotten rid of the single CFast card slot and replaced it with dual slots for the blazing fast CF Express cards, as well as a single SD card slot for recording proxies and loading custom LUTs onto your camera. The C500 now has 11 assignable buttons compared to the C200's 7 on the side of the camera, along with a few new buttons that I think are great additions. Like the C300 Mark II, there is now a light button that illuminates all of the buttons so you can see what you're doing in the dark. They've also added a media button to quickly enter playback mode instead of having to switch the camera dial. Also added are 2 buttons that allow you to quickly switch into slow and fast motion and also to change your frame rates very quickly. You also get an additional control wheel, which is really nice under button number 9. At the back of the camera, the C200 has a dual SD slot, audio controls, and a deeper recess for the battery so it doesn't stick out near as much as it does on the C500 Mark II. On the C500 Mark II, there is a big empty space in the middle where you can attach various expansion units if you want to. It also has a monitor out and an additional SDI out, which I thought was going to be awesome, but unfortunately for me, it's mostly useless because unlike the monitor out, the SDI out will only output the dimensions of the signal that you are recording in. So if I'm recording in 6K or 4K, it's not going to work for me because my small HD monitors and my Teradek wireless systems will only accept a 1080p signal. Also on the back of the camera is a very much welcome timecode input, so you can now sync timecode with other cameras and audio recorders on set. As you can see, Canon has moved the audio controls to the dumb side of the camera on the C500. For solo shooters, making audio adjustments on the fly will now be much harder to do, but on the bright side, they have at least moved all the exhaust fans onto this side of the camera, which is a welcome change because the C200 fan would blow right in your ear when you had the camera shoulder mounted and was super annoying. The top of the camera has been reworked as well to give more secure options when mounting handles, cold shoe accessories, or mounting plates to the top. Now let's go over some of the differences on the inside of the camera. The biggest difference that everyone is talking about is the 5.9K full frame sensor inside the C500. Now while this sensor is not going to magically make your footage night and day better, it will allow for better light sensitivity, shallower depth of field, and a wider field of view when using lenses that cover a full frame sensor. Also, the 5.9K sensor, when downsized to 4K, either in camera or on your editing timeline, is going to give you more detailed and sharper footage than the 4K that is coming out of your C200. To me, the C200 is basically 2 cameras in one. It's a 4K C100 that records highly compressed small UHD files to SD cards, but it's also this amazing raw cinema camera that shoots huge 4K file sizes to CFast cards. Now the problem for people like me is that there's nothing in the middle of this huge gap, and this is where the C500 Mark II comes in. Like the C300 Mark II, it records a high quality and reasonably sized middle ABC HD codec, which is much easier for video editors to handle, and it creates file sizes that are a lot more manageable, and they're not going to fill up your hard drives as quickly as the RAW files. And on the other end of things, the highest quality possible the C500 Mark II can record is massive 6K RAW files that are a whopping 2.1 gigabytes per second. For comparison now, in that mode it will only record 32 minutes to a 512 gig card compared to the 68 minutes of 4K Cinema Raw Lite that the C200 would record. Now, where the C200 really only gives you two main options, the C500 has what feels like an endless number of combinations that you can create between the sensor crop modes, which are full frame, Super 35, Super 16, resolutions, which is 4K, UHD, 2K, HD, and then the codecs, which is Cinema Raw Light and XF ABC. The C500 also has a new feature where you can load your own custom LUTs to the camera, which is not possible on the C200. Also new to the C500 is the slow and fast mode, which allows you to record up to 120 frames per second at a Super 16 2K crop. The thing I really like about this is that the camera can now put the slow motion footage inside of a 23:9:8 wrapper, which means that the footage is going to play back in slow motion both on your camera and on your timeline without needing to do anything to it. Now, the C200 also can record in 120 frames per second in 1080p, but to be honest, it is so awful and so soft that I've never actually even used it on a real project. The last thing I'll mention is the new in-camera 5-axis image stabilization that will work even if you're using a lens that does not have stabilization built in. Now, to be honest, I had very high hopes for this new feature, but in practice, I only found it to be useful in certain circumstances, and in other circumstances, it actually made the footage worse. In an upcoming video, I'll show you a bunch of comparison footage of the different modes of when this is a good time to use it and when it's a bad time. And the final difference between the two cameras is the price tag. Currently, the C200 is $6,499, the C200B is $4,999, and the new C500 Mark II is $15,999. Alright, so that's a quick look at the difference between the two cameras. Also, in my next video, I'm going to do a much deeper dive into both of these cameras as I try to answer this question. Should I sell my Canon C200 and upgrade to the C500 Mark II? If you're thinking about upgrading as well, let me know what you'd like to see in the comments below, and I'll try to cover those in my next video. And if this video was helpful, I'd super appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe. So thanks for watching, and via con the Dios.